The Megalodon is probably the scariest predator of all time. It grew up to 3 times the size of the largest great white shark ever recorded, and literally feasted on whales.
For decades, the Megalodon has been known as one of the largest and most powerful predators to ever exist, ruling the oceans as an apex hunter. But recently, talk about its extinction has resurfaced, with some discoveries being used as possible evidence. Because of this, scientists even turned to Grok AI to ask whether these claims could be true. The answer they received was surprising. So what could that answer have been? Join us in this video as we look into these discoveries. Scientists asked Grok AI whether Megalodon still exist. The answer shocked everyone. Scientists asked Grok AI whether Megalodon still exists, and the answer shocked everyone. So how is it that, even though Megalodon is believed to have gone extinct 3.6 million years ago, there are still numerous eyewitness accounts and documentaries suggesting it is still out there? Is it possible it is hiding in the Mariana Trench, waiting for the perfect time to reveal itself to the world again? One of the best-known reasons so many people believed Megalodon might still be alive was a 2013 documentary that revolved around an investigation into the giant shark's continued existence. Watched by millions, I must admit, it was quite compelling. It showed the carcass of a blue whale washed up off the coast of Hawaii that appeared to have been brutally attacked. A scientist featured in the program explained that the creature responsible had to be the size of a megalodon, while other scenes claimed to show 6-foot-tall fins rising above the ocean near similar blue whale attacks. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, many people missed the disclaimer shown at the beginning of the program, which clearly stated that the possible return of the species was not based on fact. As it turned out, the entire documentary was filled with fake photographs, staged footage, and actors hired to portray scientists. There have, of course, been other unconfirmed sightings of living megalodons. In 1918, a fisherman off the eastern coast of Australia claimed to have seen a shark estimated to be between 31 and 95 meters long, carrying away several lobster pots, and as recently as 2022, NBC Boston ran the headline, "2 Megalodon sightings off New England." Spoiler alert, it turned out to be a basking shark. Another common argument for Megalodon still being out there points to the fact that some giant animals, such as the giant squid, took a long time to be fully discovered by scientists. However, their remains had been washing up on beaches and getting caught by fishermen for decades, if not longer, giving scientists real physical evidence that they existed long before anyone had ever seen or officially recorded a complete specimen. By far the most common argument supporting Megalodon's survival is the claim that we've only explored 5% of the oceans. While that statement may be true, science tells us we do not need to explore every part of the ocean to know that a giant whale-hunting shark is not hiding there. Megalodon was an apex predator, and if it were still alive, orcas and great white sharks would never have taken over its place at the top of the food chain. It is also no coincidence that around the same time Megalodon went extinct, whales began growing much larger. In the absence of giant predators like Megalodon, whales living during the Pleistocene became almost twice the size of those that lived during the Pliocene, eventually leading to the appearance of the blue whale. Based on what Grok AI explained, what could have led scientists to take that action? Stay tuned to find out. Megalodon's extinction. The Earth went through many major changes during the time Megalodon lived, and these changes had a powerful impact on life in the oceans. A long cooling trend that began in the Oligocene around 35 million years ago eventually led to the formation of massive ice sheets at the poles. At the same time, major geological shifts reshaped ocean currents and rainfall patterns across the planet. These included the closing of the Central American Seaway and significant changes in the Tethys Ocean, both of which helped push global oceans toward colder conditions over time. The weakening of the Gulf Stream also reduced the flow of warm, nutrient-rich water into important marine ecosystems, which may have lowered Megalodon's available food supply and overall hunting success. The largest sea level changes in the Cenozoic era occurred during the Pliocene period between about 5 million and 12,000 years ago as ice sheets expanded and retreated at the poles. These dramatic changes reshaped coastal environments on a global scale and may have contributed to the extinction of Megalodon along with many other large marine species. In particular, falling sea levels may have reduced the shallow, warm-water nursery areas that Megalodon depended on for reproduction and early survival. Nursery areas are extremely important for many shark species because they provide protection for young sharks from predators during their most vulnerable stages of life. Because Megalodon likely did not live comfortably in colder waters, it may not have been able to maintain enough body heat, meaning it was largely restricted to shrinking warm water regions as the planet cooled. Fossil evidence shows that Megalodon was not present in regions where ocean temperatures dropped significantly during the Pliocene. However, research into its distribution over time suggests that temperature change may not have been the direct or sole cause of its extinction. Its range during both the Miocene and Pliocene did not strictly follow global warming and cooling patterns, showing a more complex response to environmental change. Although its population size and distribution clearly decreased during the Pliocene, Megalodon still managed to survive in some cooler regions of the world. Fossils have been found in areas where ocean temperatures ranged on average from 12 to 27 degrees Celsius, 54 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit, and overall from as low as 1 to 33 degrees Celsius, 34 to 91 degrees Fahrenheit, showing it could tolerate a wider range than previously assumed. This suggests that the total amount of suitable habitat available to it may not have been drastically reduced by temperature changes alone during that time. This evidence supports the idea that Megalodon was a mesotherm, meaning it had the ability to partly regulate and control its body temperature, allowing it some flexibility in different ocean conditions. Marine mammals reached their greatest diversity during the Miocene period, meaning an exceptionally wide range of different species were living in the oceans at that time. Baleen whales alone included more than 20 known Miocene genera, compared to only 6 living genera that exist today, highlighting just how rich and varied marine life once was. This rich diversity of marine life created an ideal environment capable of supporting a top super predator like Megalodon at the very top of the food chain. However, by the end of the Miocene, many species of Mysticetes, a group of baleen whales, had gone extinct or significantly declined. The remaining species may have evolved to become faster and more agile swimmers, which made them increasingly difficult for predators like Megalodon to capture. In addition, after the Central American seaway closed, tropical whale populations became less diverse and less abundant across many ocean regions, further reducing potential prey availability. The extinction of Megalodon is closely connected with the decline of several smaller Mysticete lineages, and it is widely believed that these whales formed a major and essential part of its diet. At the same time, a large marine megafauna extinction event during the Pliocene eliminated around 36% of all large marine species across the oceans. This included roughly 55% of marine mammals, 35% of seabirds, 9% of sharks, and 43% of sea turtles, showing a massive loss of biodiversity in marine ecosystems. This extinction event mainly affected warm-blooded and partly warm-blooded animals more than cold-blooded species, which suggests it was driven primarily by a major reduction in available food resources rather than random environmental loss. This idea also strongly supports the theory that Megalodon was mesothermic, relying on a steady and abundant food supply to maintain its massive body size. Megalodon may have become too large to survive on the shrinking ocean food resources that existed during this period of global change. As the oceans continued to cool throughout the Pliocene, Megalodon may also have lost access to polar regions, where many large whales migrated seasonally in search of food and breeding grounds. This would have greatly reduced its access to key prey sources across different ocean zones, making long-term survival increasingly difficult and eventually unsustainable. Besides environmental changes, could there be other reasons it went extinct? especially considering the Megalodon was an apex predator? Keep watching to find out. The competition that ended Megalodon's reign. It is believed that Megalodon went extinct mainly due to increasing competition from other predators. During this period, the earliest ancestors of modern orcas and great white sharks were beginning to spread into new habitats across the world's oceans, expanding their range and increasing ecological pressure. At the same time, surviving baleen whales began showing a clear evolutionary trend toward gigantification, possibly linked to cooling ocean temperatures. As many of Megalodon's preferred prey species began to decline, shift, or disappear, the remaining available prey often became too large or too difficult to hunt effectively. In the case of massive baleen whales, such as the ancestors of the modern blue whale, they were simply too large for Megalodon to successfully take down. Meanwhile, smaller toothed whales were too fast, too agile, and too intelligent to consistently catch, and many of these species began to be increasingly targeted by emerging predators like great white sharks and orcas instead. This left Megalodon gradually outcompeted, slowly losing its dominant position as the top ocean predator. Over time, large predatory sharks and toothed whales filled the ecological space that Megalodon once ruled. The earliest orcas appeared during this time and eventually became one of the most successful polar and subpolar predators on Earth, feeding on fish, sharks, and marine mammals with great efficiency. Toothed whales also diversified into many different ecological roles, with the modern sperm whale becoming highly specialized in hunting large, soft-bodied squid, while dolphins and various shark species continued to compete as dominant fish-eating predators in different marine environments. Fossil evidence suggests that in regions where Megalodon disappeared, great white sharks began to appear in greater numbers, suggesting a possible ecological replacement. A similar pattern may also have occurred with orcas as they expanded into new hunting niches. As ocean temperatures continued to decline, the distribution of many marine species changed dramatically, including both prey animals and competing predators. This shift likely forced Megalodon into increasingly direct competition with other top predators in regions where it once faced little resistance, steadily weakening its dominance as the apex predator over time. This was not a sudden extinction event where Megalodon disappeared overnight. Instead, it was a slow and gradual process that unfolded over many generations. At its peak, the oceans may have supported hundreds of thousands of megalodons roaming widely in search of prey across vast marine environments. Over long periods of time, this population steadily declined. Generation after generation, the numbers may have dropped from hundreds of thousands to tens of thousands, then to only a few thousand individuals, and eventually down to a very small and isolated remaining population. This gradual decline happened because environmental conditions were no longer stable or suitable enough for the species to continue thriving, ultimately leading to its complete extinction. Looking at all the answers and reasons we've explored, let's take a step back and really understand the Megalodon. What were they exactly? Keep watching to find out. Megalodon, the ancient giant shark. Otodus megalodon, commonly called Megalodon, is an extinct species of giant mackerel shark that lived about 23 to 3.58 million years ago from the early Miocene to the early Pliocene epochs.
About 20 million years ago, the king of the sea was this big fish, Megalodon. It was probably the largest shark to ever exist and potentially one of the largest fish to ever exist, sitting right at the top of the food chain at the highest trophic level ever measured for a marine predator.
This ancient shark was once thought to belong to the family Lemnidae and to be closely related to the great white shark Carcharodon carcharias, but it has now been reclassified into the extinct family Otodontidae, which split away from the great white shark lineage during the early Cretaceous period. Even though it is considered one of the largest and most powerful predators ever to exist, Megalodon is known only from fragmented and incomplete fossil remains, so its exact appearance and true maximum size remain uncertain. Scientists have debated whether its body shape was more stocky or more streamlined and elongated compared to modern lamniform sharks. Estimates of its maximum length range from about 14.2 to 24.3 meters, or 47 to 80 feet, based on different studies, while more typical estimates across growth stages from juveniles to adults suggest an average size of around 10.5 meters, or 34 feet. Its teeth were thick, strong, and heavily built for gripping prey and crushing bone, while its massive jaws may have produced a bite force of about 108,500 to 182,200 newtons, or 24,390 to 40,960 pounds force. Megalodon likely played a major role in shaping ancient ocean ecosystems. Fossil evidence shows that it had a cosmopolitan distribution, meaning it lived in many different parts of the world's oceans. It probably hunted large marine animals such as whales, seals, and sea turtles. Juvenile megalodons likely lived in warm coastal waters, feeding on fish and smaller whales as they grew. Unlike the great white shark, which often attacks from below targeting softer areas, Megalodon likely used its immense jaw strength to crush through the chest region of its prey, aiming for vital organs such as the heart and lungs. Megalodon also faced competition from other large marine predators, including whale-eating cetaceans such as Leviathan and other macroraptorial sperm whales, as well as possibly early forms of killer whales known as orchinus. However, whether early orchinus species were true competitors is still debated, since species such as Orchinus cytoniensis were likely adapted for feeding on smaller prey like fish and cephalopods rather than large marine mammals. Because Megalodon preferred warmer waters, it is believed that ocean cooling associated with the beginning of the ice ages, along with falling sea levels and the loss of suitable nursery areas, may have contributed to its decline. A reduction in baleen whale diversity and a shift of whale populations toward polar regions may have further reduced Megalodon's main food sources. Its extinction also coincides with a period when baleen whales were evolving toward larger body sizes. Megalodon teeth have been discovered and used by humans since ancient times. They were highly valued by pre-Columbian cultures in the Americas because of their large size and sharp serrated edges, and were crafted into tools such as projectile points, knives, jewelry, and burial objects. In some societies, such as the Sitio Conte culture in Panama, they appear to have been used mainly for ceremonial purposes. The Algonquin peoples in the Chesapeake Bay region also mined Megalodon teeth and traded them with the Adena culture in Ohio as early as 430 BC. The earliest written mention of Megalodon teeth comes from Pliny the Elder in AD 73 in his work Historia Naturalis. He described them as petrified human tongues, which Roman folklore believed had fallen from the sky during lunar eclipses, and called them glossopetrae, meaning tongue stones. Later, in a 12th century Maltese tradition, these tongue stones were believed to be the petrified tongues of serpents that St. Paul turned to stone after a shipwreck, and they were thought to carry protective healing powers. The idea of glossopetrae continued across Europe from the 13th to 16th centuries, with people attributing even stronger magical properties to them, believing they could cure poisons. Megalodon teeth became widely used by European nobles as protective charms, and were even fashioned into tableware to guard against poisoned food and drinks. By the 16th century, these teeth were also ground into powders and used as ingredients in European-made Goa stones, which were believed to have healing and protective effects. Looking at the role the Megalodon once held in the ocean, let's take a closer look at just how powerful these creatures really were. Stay tuned to find out. Megalodon dominance of the ancient oceans. To truly appreciate how extreme Megalodon was, you have to look beyond its size and focus on the raw power it carried, because everything about this animal was built for dominance at the highest level. Scientists have estimated Megalodon's bite force at somewhere between 24,000 and 40,000 pounds. To put that into perspective, a T-Rex, which is widely considered one of the strongest biters in the history of life on Earth, had a bite force of around 12,800 pounds. Megalodon likely had more than 3 times that power. It did not just bite through bone, it bit straight through whales, and it needed that level of power because an animal this size could not survive on small meals. Researchers estimate that a fully grown Megalodon requires around 2,500 pounds of food every single day. That is roughly the weight of a small car eaten daily, just to keep this massive predator alive. Its main prey included whales, dolphins, large fish, and sea turtles. Basically, anything large enough to make the hunt worth the energy it took. But perhaps the most surprising detail about Megalodon is not how it hunted, but how it was born. Fossilized vertebrae suggest that Megalodon gave birth to live young, and those newborns were already between 12 and 13 feet long. A newborn Megalodon was about the size of a fully grown great white shark. But to reach that stage, something remarkable had to happen even before birth. Like some modern sharks today, Megalodon embryos likely fed on unfertilized eggs inside the womb, a process called oophagy. It is a form of survival of the fittest that begins before birth. Once these pups were born, they entered the ocean already as apex predators. Their teeth were already formed, their size already impressive. And from the very first moment they were faced with a vast ocean ready to be dominated. Megalodon teeth have been found on every continent except Antarctica. This means this animal did not just dominate one part of the ocean, it ruled almost all of it. Could this truly be the end of the Megalodon, or are new discoveries still emerging that keep the mystery alive? Stay tuned to find out. New discoveries about Megalodon. In the early 2000s, clear differences between teeth, along with a closer study of the fossil record, suggested that the story of Megalodon was more complex than scientists first believed. So, during the mid-2000s years, Kevin Nyberg and his colleagues carried out detailed shape analyses comparing Megalodon teeth with those of great white sharks. They found no overlap in tooth shape variation and no similarity in the structure of their roots. In simple terms, the teeth of great white sharks had more uneven triangular edges, while Megalodon teeth had finer, smoother, and more rounded serrations. Because of this, it became very unlikely that the great white shark directly evolved from Megalodon as once thought, pointing instead to a completely different evolutionary path. In 2019, Dana J. Arrett used this new evidence to officially place Megalodon within the extinct family Otodontidae, also known as the megatooth sharks. Other members of this family include Otodus obliquus, which is considered one of Megalodon's earliest known ancestors and lived during the Eocene period about 60 to 37.5 million years ago. Today, the most widely accepted scientific name is Otodus megalodon, although some researchers still disagree and continue to use the older name Carcharocles. There is still ongoing debate over this classification, but overall it provides a clearer understanding of Megalodon's evolutionary background. However, this was not the only area where earlier ideas were wrong, and even more surprising discoveries were still ahead. Every version of this prehistoric shark seen in movies, documentaries, or even in imagination is likely not fully accurate. This is because the largest shark ever to exist may have been very different from earlier reconstructions and possibly much larger than once believed. For a long time, size estimates for Megalodon were based mainly on fossilized teeth and a few rare vertebrae, since no complete skeleton has ever been discovered. Based on this limited evidence, scientists once believed it reached around 15 to 18 meters in length at most, until new research changed that understanding. In 2025, a team of 28 international scientists led by paleobiologist Dr. Kenshu Shimada re-examined how this ancient giant should be reconstructed. At the center of this new interpretation is a rare set of fossilized vertebrae discovered in Belgium, now preserved in the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels. This specimen measures about 11 meters in length, but it only represents the trunk of the shark, meaning the head and tail are missing entirely. To estimate the full body size, Shimada's team compared it with the body structures of 165 modern and extinct shark species. This allowed them to calculate proportions more accurately, suggesting that Megalodon's head made up about 16.6% of its total body length, while the tail accounted for about 32.6%. Using this model, the Belgian specimen suggests a total length of around 16.4 meters, including a 1.8-meter head and a 3.6-meter tail. This estimate already aligned closely with earlier predictions, but the story does not end there. Another even larger fossil vertebra, discovered in Denmark and measuring 23 centimeters wide, suggests that some individuals may have grown even larger. These sharks could have possibly reached lengths of up to 24.3 meters, nearly 10 meters longer than earlier estimates, making them comparable in size to a blue whale and weighing as much as 94 tons. But the discoveries do not stop there. Not only was Megalodon larger than previously believed, it may also have looked very different from earlier reconstructions as well. Could there still be more hidden mysteries and forgotten stories beginning to resurface today? Stay tuned to find out the Megalodon survival theory, what could be hiding in the deep ocean. In 2013, a documentary was released that sent shockwaves around the world. It showed the body of a blue whale drifting off the coast of Hawaii, covered with what appeared to be enormous bite marks from an unknown predator. A scientist featured in the documentary claimed that the only animal capable of causing such devastating damage had to be something the size of a megalodon. The program even showed what were described as 6-foot fins captured on camera near similar attacks, making the story seem even more believable. Millions of people watched the documentary and accepted every second of it as the truth. What most viewers completely overlooked, however, was the disclaimer shown at the very beginning, quietly explaining that none of the events were based on real facts. The footage had been staged, the photographs had been digitally created, and every scientist appearing on screen was actually an actor. Every single one of them. But that documentary was far from the only story to fuel the legend. Back in 1918, a fisherman off the eastern coast of Australia claimed he had seen a gigantic shark somewhere between 100 and 300 feet long, carrying away his lobster pots. More than a century later, the mystery was still making headlines. As recently as 2022, NBC Boston published the headline, "2 Megalodon Sightings Off New England." The story spread quickly, leaving many people wondering if the giant predator had finally returned. But after a closer investigation, the mysterious animal turned out to be nothing more than a harmless basking shark. That viral video from Australia was also almost certainly not a megalodon. Yet stories like these continue to create just enough uncertainty to keep the mystery alive decade after decade. Supporters of the theory often point to the giant squid as proof that enormous creatures can remain hidden from humans for centuries without ever being properly discovered. At first, that argument sounds convincing, but it leaves out one very important detail. The giant squid never stayed completely hidden. It always left behind evidence. Its remains washed ashore. Dead specimens became trapped in fishing nets, and enormous bite marks were discovered on sperm whales long before anyone ever managed to film one alive. Long before cameras captured the first living giant squid, scientists already knew something massive existed because it kept leaving clues behind. Megalodon has never left behind anything like that. No freshly discovered teeth, no recent bite marks on modern whales, no floating carcasses, and no reliable video footage that can survive careful scientific examination. Nothing at all. If this giant predator somehow managed to survive until today, it would have to be hiding in a place where humans almost never go, somewhere so remote and mysterious that even modern technology has barely touched it. And that leads to one theory that is much harder to dismiss than all the others. It takes us to the deepest, darkest, and most unexplored place anywhere on the surface of our planet. The deepest place on Earth plunges nearly 7 miles into endless darkness, where crushing pressure and complete silence create one of the most hostile environments on the planet. It is a world without sunlight, hidden beneath miles of water, where conditions are so extreme that very little is known about what truly lives there. Some believe this remote abyss could be the last place where a megalodon might still be hiding. It is an idea that has fascinated people for years, because so much of the deep ocean remains unexplored. In fact, fewer people have reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench than have walked on the moon.
I'm talking about James Cameron and his attempt to reach Challenger Deep. That is the deepest known point on the planet. It's located in the Marianas Trench.
Filmmaker James Cameron is one of the very few who has completed that extraordinary journey. In 2012, He descended alone inside a deep-sea submersible that he famously described as a vertical torpedo, disappearing into a place almost no human has ever seen with their own eyes. That says something remarkable. Even with all our satellites, powerful technology, advanced submarines, and confidence in modern science, the vast majority of our oceans remain unexplored. We have mapped the surfaces of distant planets more completely than many parts of our own seafloor. Even today, we still have no clear picture of what could be living in the deepest parts of the ocean, far beyond the reach of sunlight and ordinary human exploration. And this is where the story becomes even more fascinating. In 1873, the HMS Challenger was carrying out the very first scientific survey of the world's oceans, when its crew recovered something completely unexpected near the Mariana Trench. Among the discoveries were several megalodon teeth. Even more surprising, those teeth appeared unusually white and remarkably fresh, unlike fossils that had been buried beneath the earth for millions of years. Could this truly be the final end of the megalodon? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for staying with us as we shared the truth about Megalodon. Now we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these discoveries? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to explore more stories. See you there.